World Mobile is working to create a world where everyone is truly connected. And with me is the founder and CEO, Mickey Watkins, to explain the problem. And we hear of digital divide, and I'm surprised how much of the world still doesn't have access to the internet. So explain what the current situation is with that.
So the ITU referenced that there's around 2.9 billion people that are unconnected right now. Most of those are in emerging countries, but it's not exclusive to emerging countries. For example, here in the United States, around 10% of the population is unconnected. So this is a problem worldwide.
Yeah. No, my parents live out in a rural area and they don't get great internet. So, I mean, and they're in Indiana, right?
Farms and rural areas typically don't get good internet.
That's right. Yeah, there are some things trying to fix that. But so why is this happening, would you say, with such a digital gap with network distribution?
I think it's down to legacy infrastructure and potentially legacy business models that mobile network operators work with. I don't think it's a problem of money necessarily, or capex, because the mobile network operators, AT&T, Verizon, for example, they have a phenomenal amount of money.
Right.
Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they've tried to fix the digital divide and they have a phenomenal amount of money. So I think it's about a new approach to connectivity, a modern solution.
And that's what you're offering, right? Sure. A new approach. Explain how it works.
World Mobile is a mobile carrier that's built on aerial assets and ground assets. Aerial assets are tethered. They're usually called aerostats, otherwise referred to as balloons.
Okay.
These balloons are able to see very far into the horizon. So we've built a custom payload that sits on the bottom of these balloons. They can be considered towers, really. They operate at about 300 meters to 1,000 meters, and actually potentially at 20,000 meters. And you're able to see very far, huge amounts of distance, around 65 kilometers of distance, radius-wise.
Interesting.
So coming up from very high is a new solution that hasn't really been used. It's been used in the military before, but not for commercial use. So World Mobile is one of the first companies. The other company is SoftBank in Japan that have tried this as well.
Okay, and there's somehow a blockchain element to this as well. Explain that.
So the blockchain is there for several reasons, but I just touched on the fact that it's not a capex issue generally for Google or for Facebook, for Microsoft, but it can be. So what we are doing is building a community, a worldwide community network where anyone could be an Air owner and anyone could be an Air operator. So by having blockchain, you need to assure that people are getting rewarded for the services that they're providing. So telecoms is a $2.7, $2.8 trillion industry, just the connectivity layer of that. So we're asking people to own part of this infrastructure, buy part of this infrastructure, but surely they need to get paid for this part of this infrastructure. So having a proof of service algorithm running on the blockchain ensures transparency that if you were to buy a node, then you're assured of what you're getting paid for when traffic is run through your node.
Yeah, and then what about privacy? Because you have an approach to this that is a little different as well.
Sure. So existing mobile network operators right now, whether they like it or want it or for any reason, they're able to actually see all of the traffic that passes through our network. It really should be in the hands of the end user, the subscriber, and the regulator, or whichever authorities. But the way the legacy telecom is being built, it's just been stacked on top of each other. So World Mobile has a different approach to that, where we believe in self-sovereign identity. So again, we use blockchain for self-sovereign identity so that you can assure that your data is your data and only you can access it or the regulator can access it.
And get rewarded for that as well.
We don't ever promote to get rewarded for selling your data, but it's your choice, right? So once you have access to your own data and it's yours, then you can choose what to do with it. You can donate it, you can give it for information, or you can choose to participate and get rewarded for your data.
Yeah. Now, how does the company fit in with the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
It actually sits in with all of the 17 SDGs. You have healthcare, you have poverty, you have connectivity, you have education. All of these things are made much better by having internet and having access to resources and having access to information that is able to progress you.
And what about in terms of your impact on the environment versus a centralized telecom company?
So this has been one of the biggest challenges for us. In the emerging markets, let's take the continent of Africa, for example, typically mobile network operators can't afford to go out into the rural areas because of the way that the technology is being built. So you have a tower, you have a steel tower, you have this huge amount of radio equipment on this tower, and then you have a power line that goes to this tower. But when you don't have a power line, you may have fiber. How do you power this infrastructure, this equipment? So what we've done is we've made sure that we've made smaller the requirement for power, and using solar as well as using helium to float our balloons, using renewable energy everywhere we possibly can, that's fitting.
Now, you're doing a project like this in Tanzania, correct?
Yes.
Explain that project. How does it work? What kind of impact are you seeing there?
It's actually in Zanzibar, which is Tanzania. We've seen some incredible impacts. We've seen villages turn from 100 people to 300 people. We've seen shops go from one shop to 3 shops in the same village. We've seen fishermen be able to buy their own nets, and this has all come from connectivity. A fisherman, for example, who can message a trader and say, hey, I've got this fish here right now, send him or her a picture. The trader's journey now for 60 kilometers is worth going, rather than not understanding what the stock is, what's available, what's not. And the fishermen now understand the trader's coming, so they don't need to smoke their fish. Now, when you smoke your fish, you lose 8 times, 10 times the value of the fish. But beyond that, we've also seen that the fishermen themselves, now they're able to communicate every day very easily. They're exporting crabs to China, exporting prawns to the mainland of Tanzania, and able to make much better commerce and much better business.
Oh, it's going to have a huge impact on smaller entrepreneurs in some of these unconnected areas. Yeah.
Many small make a huge whole, right? So when you've got 1.3 billion people in the African continent and around 900 million people that are unconnected, we can see this being absolutely huge.
Yeah. So what do you see as the future of the telecom industry? How long do you think it'll take for the whole world to be connected?
I think it will take around 4, 5, 6 years.
Okay.
But I think the impact can be made in the next 1 or 2 years. Our aerostats and our dynamic network solution allows us to connect a lot of people very, very quickly. Yeah. So we're able to see millions of people from the aerostat from very high. But the way that our network works, we have ground nodes that are owned by the community, and the aerostats themselves combine and speak to each other, all coordinated from the ground. So we see an impact of tens of millions of people in the next 1 or 2 years.
Wow, fascinating technology. And interesting to get to see how it affects humanity in the future as well. So thank you so much, Mickey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.